Hello and welcome back to ADHD Support Talk Radio. I'm your co-host, Lynn Idris, and I am a productivity and ADHD coach. So I empower professionals to take control of their time and their lives so that they can fulfill their potential and have more time and energy for what matters most to them. And guys, I'm a woman with ADHD myself, so I get it. I've been there. I've done that. I've come out the other side, as I often say, to live a life of more success and fulfillment than I once dreamed was possible. And I believe that every single one of you can share that success yourselves. You can learn more about me and what I do at www.coachingadvantages.com. But today I have the founder of ADHD Support Talk Radio with me, my co-host, Tara McGillicuddy. Welcome, Tara. Introduce yourself,
Hi,
please.
my name is Tara McGillicuddy. I am the producer, founder of ADHD Support Talk Radio, and it is the longest running podcast for adults with ADHD. I'm an ADHD coach, woman with ADHD. I've been involved in the online ADHD support community since 1997. I offer different resources for ADHD. And if you'd like to learn more about me and the products and services I offer, you can go to my website, taramcgillicuddy.com.
Awesome. So the topic of getting motivated in the morning came up, and that just makes me laugh. So I thought that would be a good topic for us
Yeah,
to discuss because my instant reaction or instant response was I'm never motivated in the morning.
yeah.
I am not a morning person. Anybody who's known me for 5 minutes knows that I am not a morning person. What about you, Tara?
Yeah, I am not a morning person. Every once in a while, I kind of have to be a morning person. Like, there's something that I couldn't get out of. I have to be out of the house at a normal time and talk to people. I can do that maybe once, twice a year. But I am not a morning person. It takes me a while to wake up, and that's something I have heard from a lot of other people with ADHD is they're either morning people or they're not morning people, which means
Right.
it can take them a while to get going in the morning. And I think that in itself, understanding that's who you are, and majority of the time, work with that. That
Right.
if it takes a lot, some of us longer to wake up and get activated and motivated than the average typical person.
Absolutely. I am 100% not a morning person. I am a night owl.
Mhm.
And if the rest of the world worked with my sort of body rhythm, that would be awesome. But it
Yeah.
doesn't. And we have businesses to run and we've got stuff that
Hmm.
we need to do. So I work with it when I can and where I can. But I've also learned over the years that I actually don't need to be motivated. So
Hmm.
what I try to do is to set myself up so that I don't need to be motivated in the morning. Yeah, I've still got to get out of bed. And sometimes the thing I'm most motivated to do is pull those covers up a little higher and
Hmm.
roll over and cover my eyes a little more. But really, for me, it's been more about how I've structured my mornings and how I've set my days up to make it easier for me to get started gradually. And I've
Hmm.
also learned that how I start my morning really matters. So if I slide in or ease in too much, then it's really hard for me to gain any traction in the rest of the day. I have to structure my
Yeah.
mornings carefully. And I don't mean I'm not one of those people that gets up super early and does like morning pages, or I've always wanted to be a first thing in the morning workout person. I used to be able to do that when my kids were young, and
Hmm.
I would be up for a while with one of them and then I'd get a workout in before I got the other one up. But I just can't seem to create that rhythm for myself. And that's okay. But I do need to kind of like hit the morning with, how do I say this? With some direction
Yes.
so that I'm
Doing
not just kind of
something. Yeah.
floundering. Yeah.
Even
Otherwise
if,
I'll just fritter
yeah.
time away and
Yeah.
it'll.
And never used to, and I can say exercise first thing in the morning, but I go to Pilates, and if there's a morning class available, I'll do that. But that's later in the morning. That might be,
Right.
it's not 5 in the morning. It's one of the first
Right.
things I do, and it's like a 5 minute drive from where I live. So that, but the days that I take off, yeah, I can see myself floundering. But even if I, start with, okay, let's do the three dishes that are still in the sink. Let's
Mhm.
do something. But then
Right.
there's every once in a while, sometimes I need that break, that morning where I'm not doing anything. If I do that every day, yeah, it's not going to be good. But there are some people it's just simply getting out of bed And doing something like making their bed as soon as they get out can really, change their day. It's things like that, like having some type of morning routine or ritual. Yeah, still,
Absolutely.
you're not
Yeah.
expecting, you're not, changing the world first thing in the morning. I mean, if I
Right.
tried to, I'd probably, upset everyone because I'm not always a morning person. But I think it's just understanding your energy levels when,
Yeah.
because people might be listening to this right now and they're like, wait a minute, I'm like that in the afternoon or I'm like that at night. If you're more of a morning person, know that. I think that's a big thing, understanding your energy levels, which time of day you do best for certain types of
Right.
activities.
Absolutely. So, one of the things that I do with my clients in my time management mentoring group is we log our focus and energy
Hmm.
because, everybody's got a different kind of, if you could picture a wave with ebbs and flows throughout the course of the day, your energy, like your physical energy, your mental energy, and your focus kind of ebb and flow throughout the course of the day. And there are certain times of the day where I may feel more like energetic, but certain types of focus or certain types of concentration are harder for me than others. So
Hmm.
you really want to work with that. You want to work with your own focus and energy flow. And, a lot of that is like listening to your brain and listening to I always say, listening to your resistance. So if it feels really hard for you to get started on something at a particular time of the day, try to shift that by a few
Yeah,
hours. Like
yeah,
I do need to kind of hit the ground running, but I'm not doing something that's hard for me from a focus perspective or from an activation perspective. Like for me, those hard things are things like, organizing paper or bookkeeping, or
mhm,
they're just certain things that are not my kind of first thing in the day kinds of focus.
yeah.
But there are things I know I can do. One of the things I have to be really careful about is having, I would say, putting guide rails in place for myself to kind of protect those high spots, the real high spots in my focus and my energy, and the real low spots. Because
Hmm.
if I'm going to find myself doing something that is maybe, oh gosh, like something that you can easily get yourself sucked into, like your phone or your inbox or social medias or whatever, at a point in your day when it's a very low focus and energy point in the day, then a lot of times that's going to make it harder for me to get out of it.
Yeah.
If I'm going to do something like that, that is going to more likely to suck me in at a high focus part of the day, then I'm wasting that high focus on something that doesn't require it. And that means that I'm probably going to have to try to do that high focus thing at a part of the day that isn't quite optimal. There are parts of the day that I'm really careful about what I let myself do. Like
Hmm.
getting on my phone, I keep my phone, it's on a dresser beside my bed, but it's not within arm's reach. So I don't want the first thing I do in the morning to be checking my messages and my socials on my phone, because
Hmm.
that's, I mean, who hasn't lost an hour of their lives that they're never going
Oh
to
my
see again?
gosh. Yeah,
You know?
at least an hour.
That's not a good way for me to start my day. And if I catch myself doing it, like it just sets the day off in the wrong
Mm,
trajectory. What about you?
yeah. I think self-care, like, of course, paying attention to your sleep the night before,
Mm-hmm.
but eating the food you're putting in your body or not putting in your body. It used to be like, oh, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Now, research is showing, and also like anecdotal people are saying that intermittent fasting, not eating, when
Yeah.
people go 12 hours, 18 hours, whatever it is, without eating, and fasting, some people actually have more energy and are better
Yeah.
focused. So that's something to pay attention to is when you're eating, what are you eating? And of course, with ADHD, protein and healthy
Mm-hmm.
foods are better than sugar and refined foods. But I'd recommend those of you, if you haven't heard of intermittent fasting, look into it. Just read what people are saying, research it. But I've done a little bit, and I was more focused when I wasn't eating as
Interesting.
opposed to eating a hard-boiled egg or protein.
Right.
And there's research that backs it up. So that's something to pay attention to is your self-care. What are you eating? And
Is a
us,
big one.
I know a lot
Yeah.
of us, we drink our coffee first thing in the morning, but have some water in addition to your
Yeah.
coffee.
First thing,
'Cause
second thing, third thing,
yeah,
fourth thing.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean
Right.
everyone's different. But yeah, I just think it's in. Unless I absolutely have to because I'm not a morning person, I usually don't schedule things where I have to really interact with people. I mean, I go to Pilates, I have to say hi to the people and stuff like that first thing in the morning, but I'm not talking, I'm listening, and that wakes me up. But like interviews and client calls and
Yeah.
stuff, I try not to do them until the afternoon, unless it's somebody, they can't do it any different time,
Right.
just because
Right.
I'm better. But every once in a while, I'll take a class or I'll go to an event that starts at like 9 or 10 in the morning that requires me to have like a half-hour drive. And I don't do that every time, but when I do, if I do it once, twice a year, I can, of course, if I have a half-hour drive, people like, oh, they like things close. I'm like, I like to wake up during that half-hour drive
Yeah.
before I have to talk to people. So I think it's just knowing that. And, oh yeah, like ADHD conferences. I remember somebody wanted me to go to a meeting at 7 a.m. and I'm like, what? Why would you
No.
do that? I come to these things. I interact with people, which takes a lot out of me. I need my sleep. I think one time
Right.
I went to something, but I'm like, why would you do that? But I think knowing myself, and then there are some people that, for whatever reason, they have to do things in the morning. They have families. They have a 9 to 5 type job.
Or 8 to 5 or
So
worse, right?
you have to be a normal person. So I think with that, one of the things I found working with clients is if you're not a morning person and you need to be out of the house or help somebody else get out of the house, make as many decisions the night before. Like before
Yes.
you go to bed,
Yes.
double check that you have your keys are in where they belong. The stuff for your kids are where they need to be. Because that's one of the things that can be tough in the morning is
Absolutely.
just
Absolutely.
having the items you need. And
Absolutely.
I'm one of those people. I used to search for my keys all the time, and that would just I'd
Oh, that
leave
can ruin
time.
your whole morning.
I'd leave time, an allotment to get out of the house to search for my keys. Now I just
Right.
keep them in my pocketbook 99% of the time. But every once in
Right.
a while, I'll come home distracted and put them someplace. It's stuff like that. It's those are the things when you have ADHD, it's important to realize in addition to the lack of motivation and energy in the morning, is what are those things that can suck your energy and your time, like losing your keys or
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
use that example because that's one thing that I relate to, but it might be other things for other people.
Absolutely. So doing what you can to set yourself up for an easy morning.
Yeah,
I did a
yeah.
lot of that when my kids were little and they start like high school and middle school at such
Oh
insane
my
times. I know
gosh,
there was like
yes.
one point my son had to, I can't remember if it was middle or high school. He had to be on the bus at like 6:15.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
6:15 in the morning. That's insane.
Yep,
So you're up
crazy.
at 5:30 or something, you
Yep.
know, basically dragging a teenager around by the ear trying to get him out the door. But I had to have checklists for myself the night before because I knew
Yeah,
it would be hard enough for me to
yeah.
get myself up and moving to make sure that he had what he needed to get out the
Hmm.
door as well. And, eventually we all figure it out. But knowing yourself, working with your natural energy flow where
Yeah,
you can, doing what you can. I always say, if you know where your low spots are, your low spots in focus, your low spots in energy, doing what you can to kind of mitigate them a little bit and keep them from getting quite so low. So
yeah.
if you know you tend to have a low spot in energy late in the afternoon, or doing what you can to get a little fresh air, move a little bit more, hydrate,
Hmm. Yeah,
get a snack with some protein or, whatever, healthy fats, whatever that is for you, but doing what you can to make the bottom kind of less of a bottom, like dip quite so badly, and then taking advantage of those high spots when you can. Nobody really has full control over their days, but most of us have more control than we think we do in terms of deciding what we're going to do and when we're going to do it. So, really taking that into consideration when you're planning your days, when you're setting yourself up for what you're going to accomplish at different points, just making sure that you know and honor your own tendencies, I think is a really important thing. And then
yeah.
remembering, like, you don't necessarily need motivation to do stuff. You've just got to
Yes.
find your way to do it.
Hmm.
That's always the big thing with me. Like, I don't wanna, that inner 3-year-old is telling me I'm tired. I don't wanna, it's cold out there, or, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't want to face the day, whatever it is. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to do any of it. I don't want to do any adulting today. And then I've got to make sure that that inner 3-year-old just, I tell her
Yeah.
it's okay. You feel that way. It's all
Yeah.
right. It's all right that you don't want to get up. That's fine. What can we do today? Kind of be gentle with yourself and start talking yourself into stuff. It's hard, but I think a lot of it does start with understanding you
Yeah.
and really doing it.
And really focusing on looking at one thing at a time, because a lot of times when we get up, it's like, oh, I have this, and that. I have 101 things on my to-do list I didn't get done yesterday. And I know that's overwhelming, but when you're focusing on too many things at once, you get into that paralysis. Even if you have a list, cover up the other things with a piece of paper and just look
Yep.
at one thing. Just you can
Yep.
only do one thing at a time. We really can't multitask. So we can only get one thing done at a time. So maybe start with something small that, you can be done with in 5 minutes, and that adds that serotonin, that
Right. A little bit of
accomplishment, that you
dopamine boost, a little
dopamine and
serotonin.
all
Yeah.
that. I think it's just knowing your system, knowing energy, and you're not anyone else. Just meet yourself where you are when it comes to
Yeah.
morning or whatever time of the day it is.
And be nice to you. And
Yeah.
the line is, if you're going to beat yourself up about not being, somebody else,
Yeah.
it's not going to help you. It's actually going to make it harder for you to honor who you are and work with the way you work best. And I think
Yeah.
that is absolutely key.
Yes, self-compassion is a big one, because what can happen is we can finally get out of bed, we can finally, get something done, and then we'll do it. Let's really
Yeah.
say, okay, I washed 5 dishes, I folded my clothes that's been in the basket for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Instead
And
of
I
beating
actually put
yourself up,
five of them away, right?
yes, that's the thing, that focusing on that success instead of beating yourself up. I mean, I know
Yes.
it's human nature, because it's like, okay, I got it done, but you have to like
Yeah.
stop at the bottom and just go to, I got
Absolutely.
it done.
Right. And I think absolutely important to remember that the harder something is for you, or the more you resist it and the more you dislike it, the more you need to give yourself credit for any progress you make.
Yes,
That's
yes.
how you keep building on your strengths. And that's how you keep, you know, making progress. Because if you're always, yeah, butting yourself, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I did it, but I should have done it weeks ago, or yeah, I did it, but I should have done it faster, or I should have done more. You really are handicapping yourself going forward.
Yes, yes. And it takes practice.
Absolutely.
It's something
It's a
you can listen to,
shift.
like, okay, I want to change that. And I think you start gradually changing it. And then, I mean, I know I still do it, but I'm like, I'm going to catch myself. I'm going to shift.
Yes.
It's easier
Yep.
to shift now. I don't do as much. But I think that's got to be one of the big some that self-compassion, and just forgiving yourself for whatever it is you didn't do in the past or did in the past.
Forgiveness and
Mm.
self-compassion is
Yes.
such a big part of the battle.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts you want to share with our listeners?
I think just kind of reiterating that, knowing yourself, understanding your energy, and if morning or whatever time of day isn't something that, it comes natural to you, be okay with that, and work with your energy, work with who you are. You don't need to compare yourself to anyone else.
Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly with that. Well, I hope you guys found something in here that was helpful and can relate, because I know, this is the kind of stuff I hear from clients all the time. You can join us in the ADHD Support Talk Facebook group to discuss this or any other topic, share your thoughts, questions, connect with us, suggestions for guests or topics. We are always very happy to have you with us in the ADHD Support Talk Facebook group. If you found the podcast helpful or enjoy it, we always appreciate if you leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. The more 5-star reviews we get, the more people can find us and get the help and support they need. Thank you all for
Thank
listening, and we
you.
will catch you next time on ADHD Support Talk.